Hi there. Yeah, so today I want to talk about 4 motorcycles and my journey in finding my motorcycle. I want to talk about the BMW R1200 GS. I want to talk about the BMW R1200 RS. I want to talk about the Suzuki DRZ 400, and I want to talk about the Honda Africa Twin CRF 1000. I sold my BMW R1200 GS. It was a 16 model and it was a really nice bike. And I can only say good about that bike, except for why did I sell it? It was basically, I thought it was very heavy. I bought it thinking that I was going to do some dirt rides as well, which I only did a very little because of its weight. It can do it, but it's just a very heavy bike. So I ended up buying an Africa Twin, and what a bike that is. That is so nice and smooth. I sometimes take myself in, start it up a little bit earlier than I have to, because it's just almost like a song when it starts and it warms up. And it's much more nimble than the GS 1200 GS. It's lighter, it's a great bike. I've been enjoying to ride this bike a lot. Really can't say enough good about it. Now, that's also a heavy bike. Also, it's lighter than the GS, much lighter, but it's still a heavy dirt bike. So it ended up that I bought a DRZ, and that is really recommended to go on the dirt with. It's not too heavy. There's some people that would say it's too heavy compared to KTM's. More powerful and lighter, but it's a nice bike to start off with on the dirt. It's really forgiving and it's nice to ride. So I use that all the time on the dirt now, and that shows up that the lovely Africa Twin is basically only been a road bike for me. I love riding it on the road. It's great. It does everything well. It's not nearly as powerful as the old GS. I got to think about though, since I'm only using it for road, I looked around and I found another bike. I find the BMW R1200 RS. It got smaller front wheel, and it got lower center of gravity. It got low seat height. The weight is much lower, it's much more nimble than the GS and the Africa Twin. It's a really nice bike. Here in Australia, the GSs are almost like a fashion thing now. I think a lot of people buy them, even they think they're going to use them on dirt, and some people don't, like me. This one is a really good alternative. The good thing about it here in Australia, they are much cheaper, $7,000 cheaper for the same gear. And they see a lot of components with the GS, including motor, drivetrain, and just don't have the same suspension and free height. As I said, it's a really nice bike to ride, and a good alternative to the GS. There is things you have to be aware of though. When I really like comfort. This one is a more sporty bike. You can see my position right now, and I have some issues with my hands. So for me to sit here for several hours is a little bit straining. It is a much more sporty position. You can see my legs are very bent kind of thing. On the GS and the Africa Twin, I've got a much more relaxed riding position, and I can ride for hours. Well, I will get tired after a couple of hours on this one. I can ride 4 or 5 or possibly even more on the Africa Twin and the GS. You could argue this bike may be made for people that will ride like 100 kilometers and more, and then you actually get hold up. The wind will actually hold your body up, so take a little bit of pressure out of your shoulders. So this one, as I mentioned before, that was an 18 model, and the ESA, the electronic suspension on this one, actually have the dampening as well. In old days, like in the 16 model, only had the pre-spring or preload, which is only the spring. This one have the spring and the dampening, and they put it into the front forks as well, and it does actually work. So I think it's much better now as before on the 16 model. It worked. It was could only be used if you wanted to have a pillion or none. You could just press the spring up and down. That's all it did. It didn't cater for different riding styles. The Africa Twin had a similar riding position as the BMW 1200 DS, and I jump on. You can see me here. I've shown that before in another video of mine, but now if you remember how I said on the RS, this one you can sit here for a long time. It's not as sporty, but it's very, very comfortable to ride on this bike. And I have a pillion as well, and she actually loves this bike here. It's really, really good. I have to say she liked all of, she actually also liked the RS. It's also really good, and the GS is quite good for pillions as well. So you can easily make your pillion happy with either of those three bikes, I think. The GS is very, very tall. It's about the same height as this one, I feel, from memory. The RS is very low and very nice and light and nimble to get around with. The reason I can't ride it is the riding position is not for me. And I didn't find, see, the windscreen can be adjusted up and down, and the windscreen, you can take out the 4 screws holding the windscreen to the bracket, and you can move it up and down like 4 centimeters, I believe it is. That gives actually potentially 4 different positions. I was never able to get a good position with no buffeting. So I have to say the BMW R1200 GS is better of all 3 bikes with the windscreen. And then a close next, the Africa Twin comes. I tried the other Africa Twin with the lower windscreen, and it's funnily enough just about the same as a bigger one. It gives less protection though, but the buffeting is about the same. So the DRZ is a really nice bike. I've been really enjoying to ride that on the dirt. There's always a trade-off with the motorcycle, which I'm trying to show in my motorcycle comparisons. And this one is not so good on the road. I know some people, they put road tires on it, and they say it's very nice and nimble, almost like a Hoon bike or something. I think it's, I solely use it for dirt riding, and I think it's very good at that. I think that's where it really shines through. I put it in my van. I actually put all my bikes in the van, including the Africa Twin. We drive to our location, and then we take out the bikes, and then we ride, especially if you have to go to some remote areas, we do that. If you want to do dirt riding, of course you can use the BMW GS or the Africa Twin. They can do it. In my opinion, the DRZ is much better on the dirt, and most likely simply because of its weight. I actually also think it's the suspension. Suspension is also much better. So it is a great dirt bike, and it, for me, it's much easier than even the Africa Twin. Whatever you choose and whatever you do, I hope with my little video that I've been a little bit of a help for you to choose what bike and what direction you want to go. So more left to say. If you like my video, please consider to subscribe and safe riding.